And now, a fireside chat with Dr. Danny Lange from Unity and Raj Ikat from iMerit on the role of automation in ML DataOps.
So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our fireside chat. Today, we talk with Danny Lange, who's the SVP of AI at Unity. Thank you, Danny, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time as well as your perspectives and insights over here. Today, we are going to talk about the role of automation in ML DataOps and the larger ML ecosystem. So maybe we can start off talking about the challenges, Danny, if that's okay with you. So what are the major challenges that you see in the ML DataOps and the ML ops in general ecosystems today? And why do you think automation in DataOps is so important?
Yeah, it's the classic space and time challenge that we are facing at Unity, and I know that many companies are facing this. So by space, I basically mean the amount of data. The amount of data, we have talked for years and years, the last decade about big data. It is really big data we are talking about here. And then on top of that, we are seeing a shorter and shorter timeline for data coming in till action being taken on that data. Yeah, and whenever you have these space and time challenges, they are notoriously difficult. Yeah, you have increased processing, storage requirements, and then at the same time, you really want to get down to, in some cases, real-time decision making. I mean, like if you look at this in a greater perspective. There was many years ago, and still a bit today, a focus on using data and machine learning to create reports that goes into PowerPoints, and then months later they're being used for decision making. But what we are seeing is that a lot of businesses, whether that is the gaming platform business that Unity is in, or it's streaming videos, or it's logistics, supply chains, it has become more and more real time, so that the machine learning is not sort of an analytical process that you have hours, days, weeks to do it. No, we're down to counting seconds and milliseconds.
Cool. Maybe we can shift gears and talk a little bit about timelines, if that's okay. So maybe you can take us through a journey of where ML ops and then ML data ops along with it was at its, not really infancy, but let's say 2 or 3 years ago, where it is today and how it's morphed, and then where it may evolve in your experience in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Without sounding too historical here, but if you even go further back than maybe 3 years, but you go back 10, 15 years, there's been an incredible focus initially on machine learning, the idea of training models and analyzing models, and what we have seen over the years is sort of that the attention is moving more and more what I call forward. So it's less about the details of the model, then it became more and more about being able to deploy the model, being able to scale the model, and then over the last 3 to 5 years, even further up, saying, well, we really want to focus on the data that is feeding in and creating these models and being used with these models. Yeah, and the data is where we currently are really focusing and ensuring that data is that we have proper governance, that we know the data clean, et cetera, et cetera. So it's sort of been really intriguing to me to follow over the years how this focus have shifted from really advanced stuff deep in the theory of machine learning, and all the way to today. We're really focused on getting the right data. Is the data clean? The data coming at a speed that our business require.
Cool. But what do you think would be the limiting factors for this ML data ops scalability, and how do you think automation comes in and helps in that regard?
Yeah, I think let's go back to where I started out talking about space and time. We are looking at just absolutely in incredible growth in data. When I joined Unity 6 years ago, we had about 500 to 700 million monthly active users playing a game on the Unity platform. Today, we're seeing somewhere between 3 to 4 billion monthly active users. These users are playing games. It creates event streams, and it's our role in Unity to help game studios, game developers monetize their games. And essentially, what we have to do in real time is to capture all that play data, process it, and get it back to the studio so that they can, make decisions, whether that is, in-game monetization, ad monetization, or even changes to the games themselves. Yeah, so it's a variety of purposes, and the data amounts are just absolutely enormous. Yeah, so you can't. It becomes crucial that you can automate this process, and you can automate it intelligently. Automation is no good if it basically allows the whole process, the whole system to derail because of bad data or because of some changes that you didn't notice there, and the automation just, runs on and on and on, and your business tanks. Yeah, so automation is crucial, but it has to be an intelligent automation.
Yeah, absolutely. And from our side at iMerit, when we are kind of deep into just processing all this like Cambrian explosion of data that you mentioned out, we've seen a couple of kind of major trends that I would love to share with you and the audience. Number one is in ML DataOps, we've always talked about the human in the loop, and there's the annotator, and we talked about crowd. Gradually, with this Cambrian explosion of data, the discussion has moved more towards, like you mentioned, the experts. So now we talk about experts in the loop and subject matter, SMEs being in there, and moderators in the loop, people who don't actually sit and draw polygons and prep the data, but people who are actually orchestrating this automation that's flowing in, because frankly, the cost and the time required to manually annotate the data is just, we've crossed that chasm way back, and it's only increasing. Today we talk about hundreds or thousands of autonomous vehicles. We talk in the hundreds of thousands of robots in the field. But if you just open up the switch and think of all the sensors that's capturing data for ML applications, and you go into the retail space, right? Suddenly you are in millions of smart cameras, billions of phones. And then when you go into the virtual space, and the metaverse, the omniverse, etc., that's infinite amount of data. So I think that's a big trend that we've really seen, which is the discussion moving from humans in the loop, and and then the pricing models, and the way we qualify a data ops partner has completely changed, because now we are not talking about cost-based or unit-based pricing, because it's not humans who's orchestrating or actually doing the annotations. So the business models are changing rapidly. So yes, it's very interesting times for us. The second trend that we've observed is the integration of what we used to call an ML ops cycle, the infinite loop that we are all familiar with growing up, and then the data ops cycle. It's becoming more and more fused. So previously, there was only one touch point. We prepped the data, and it hit the MLOps cycle at one point, which was training. Now you can see the data that we are collecting is impacting every single point in that infinite loop, be it testing, be it model monitoring in the field, be it deployment. So now I think eventually in the next 2 or 3 years, we probably won't have two different terms for it. ML data ops and ML ops. It's going to be one and the same, and it'll be completely fused together. So you collect data and you prep for it in a very custom way to address each and every stage of your MLOps cycle. So yes, I agree with you. Very interesting times, and we would love to share more and discuss more in the upcoming sessions that's coming. So maybe one quick question for you, Danny, and this always comes up when you talk about automation. What do you think is automation's relationship with this human in the loop? And how do you see it change or evolve over time?
Yeah, I actually think that you really almost answered that yourself, because you mentioned that the human's role has really moved up the food chain. I'll call it that, from I would say trivial annotation of data, data cleansing, basically working through record by record and make adjustments and stuff like that. Well, humans can't scale any longer doing that. Yeah. So what happened is that humans move up the food chain and act more like experts. And I think more crucially, they actually start adopting some of the technologies that is being used in these ML systems and DataOps systems themselves. You basically apply your own medicine and you use machine learning to study, improve, analyze, and judge and measure whether your data is appropriate for a given task. Yeah? So things like that we have seen in deployments where you use A/B testing, maybe you roll all that the way back and do A/B testing on your input data. Yeah? You start using all these advanced tools, and I think that that there will be a great need for even more humans in the loop. They're going to be more experts, they're going to use more tools, and they're essentially going to have much more interesting jobs going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe one quick word of recommendation that I would have for the audience is when you have your conversations about your ML DataOps partner, these kind of age-old KPIs of cost per hour, cost per unit, etc. I think we should start having the conversation more along the lines of what tools, techniques, technology, and experts do you have, and find business models or even KPIs around those. That's something that we've already started discussing with our clients, and today we have 100+ clients, and trying to evangelize that. But I would really recommend the larger ecosystem to start talking in a slightly different term when you talk about, or even benchmark when you're comparing across multiple different DataOps partners. It's no longer about who's giving you the lowest cost per hour or a lowest cost per unit. It's more about the entire package of the technique, the tools, the technology, and the experts that you have. So yeah, fun stuff. One area that I really wanted to talk to you about was in your company. Which areas have you seen the maximum and most direct impact of this automation in your data workflows? And if you can provide some examples or reference to what you guys are doing out there in Unity.
Yeah, I really want to address two areas. One area that you, Raj, also brought up is data diversity. And the second area is essentially observability. But let's talk a bit about data diversity, because it's kind of fun if you Google the web about ML ops and data ops. All the examples you see are very trivial. It's always about records, yeah, customer records, transaction records, yeah. But in reality, if you look at a company like Unity, we do have a lot of records in there. We have players, they play a game, so we'll get a record of they started playing the game and they up level and they make an in-app purchase, etc. And then they start playing another game. Yeah, but then we have also other services that are related to gameplay. So you will have chat in games. So you need to look at what if the chat is not abusive, if people not using it for purposes that is unrelated to the gameplay. We have audio capabilities. We serve ads that are graphical, so they need to be analyzed so that we don't show ads that has a different message in them graphically than textually, and so on. So there's a lot of really challenges, many challenges around data diversity, and then. Let's talk a bit about observability, which is the other big area when you have large amounts of data coming in, you operate in real time. In some of our services, we are down to 10, 20 milliseconds in decision making. And you have these streams of data coming in. It's crucial that you constantly understand the quality of data coming in, because if you have polluted data, if you have data that let me take a step back and say, data today is often coming in from customers, partners, vendors. It's not just sort of your customers clicking on something on a website and that's it. Yeah. So data are very complex, and you need to follow all these data streams 24/7 to ensure that they're correct. And that is something that we at Unity have put extraordinary focus on as the business have grown.
Wow, great. Maybe I could share something from our side at iMerit, some examples of how we've integrated data in our workflow. So one of the big things we've done with automation is how do we process anomalies? So as you know, and we'll talk more about it in our product demos and other sessions, but really one of the big areas that we've started focusing on in ML DataOps is anomalies. And this really started from the autonomous mobility area, but it's spread into all other verticals also. It's one thing to train, with very clean data in your lab pre-deployment, but once you hit deployment, it's a Wild West, and really anomalies have become the norms out there. So it's pretty crazy. The autonomous vehicle guys have seen that, and now we're seeing it across different IoT and medical verticals with medical devices, etc. So previously, DataOps was all about triage and analysis of these anomalies, or what we call edge cases. However, today, it's very different. What we now do is, in an automated way, grab these edge cases, kind of assign attributes to them, and try to find trends and relationships, and essentially draw graphs for these edge cases. And then we take that and create permutations of these attributes to create test case scenarios for our customers. And this is done in a very automated way. And especially in AV, we are seeing that this is critical for us to understand what real life would be like before you go to real life. And so, for example, corner cases around and every day, I mean, not just weeks, every day we come up with newer and newer test cases. So for example, we've been looking at, just yesterday, we were talking about flares on the road in the dark. How do cars navigate around that? Construction zones, of course, but like caution tape, a pedestrian falling down on the ground. You would never want to have your car in front of a falling pedestrian and try to train your neural networks that way. So that has become a big part of how we are automatically processing data. The second area that we've looked at is actually in synthetic data generation. So we work with our clients' partners to essentially take an anomaly and then kind of make it a little bit more challenging by, let's say, adding an environmental model to it. So let's say there is an anomaly of a car that has a wagon that's weaving kind of left and right on the freeway. You add snow, rain, or sleet to the ground. And then we do kind of real-time hardware in the loop simulations with the help of environmental model partners. And that really creates, okay, so if you have a wet ground and you have a weird swiveling happening in front of the car, is your braking distance, is your path planning, is your motion planning right or not? So that's opened up a whole new area that we have explored just by being able to automate some of these anomalies. So yes, there is a lot of fun stuff happening in this industry. Unfortunately, we just have 5 more minutes left. So maybe this is a time when we can switch to Q&A. So we have a couple of questions that have already come in. So maybe wanted to bounce that off to you, Dave, and Danny, and get your perspectives on that. So the first question is, what is the cultural reaction to using automation? And I think that is an age-old question that comes from the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, that on one side, there's nothing new there. Yeah, we all, I have seen this, multiple times. We have established teams, and then the technology changes, the challenges change, and the teams need to change as well. And we have in the past seen how we need to make upgrades to teams, and I think here the most important part of it is to make your team members of your data team, your data warehouse team, your machine learning team, make them really understand how their skills also need to be scaled up, and that how they can grow with this. Because automation is in fact leaving the team members not with less to do, but actually with more important work to do. So what you just described, you used a lot of words that are coming out of DevOps, but you used it in the relationship or connection with DataOps and ML DataOps, which is, I always find it fascinating. Synthetic data, it's a bit like unit test in engineering, test cases, edge cases, all that. And what we have seen in software engineering and DevOps is really how these tools leave the engineers and the developers to do more and more meaningful and more productive work. Yeah, and I think we're going to see exact same in the ML DataOps side using automation. We're basically going to give our team members an ability, a chance to upgrade from where they are today.
Great. I just can't stop giving iMerit's perspective in here, because almost 95% of our organization are annotators, and a very large percentage of that is people with an impact background. So when I came into this organization, my knee-jerk reaction was, hey, how will this automation and technology go with the vast majority of our employees? And very pleasantly surprised to see that my previous experience was definitely not along these lines when we used automation in other industries, but at least in the microcosm of iMerit and our human workflows, it's been embraced extremely positively. For example, but I think there is a huge part to the skilling and development platform that I think I should attribute to this consciousness of the feeling that, hey, this is not something that's going to take away your job. This is going to make your job impactful and actually higher paid, because now you guys are experts turning into moderators in the loop. And this also opens up a whole new opportunity for you to grow your careers in. So I think a huge part of this whole discussion around the reaction and cultural reaction around automation stems from the education and the skilling and the learning that we provide to people who might think that, hey, automation or technology is taking away my occupation or something like that. So really want to open this up, and for folks who want to talk more about this, myself and iMerit, we are very passionate about it and can talk some more. Maybe, I think we have just 1 more minute left, so a quick question that I can squeeze in. And this is about trade-offs of quality and cost efficiencies when we think about automation versus the human in the loop, and maybe your quick perspectives on how do we make that balance, or any experiences that you may have. And because we always think of the stuff that, hey, automation is going to help us save cost, but it's going to have a detrimental impact on quality. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, because what I think you just mentioned that the humans with automation, they can put their focus in more important places. And I think that it just inspired me what you just said about the greater integration between the different humans and the process that goes into DataOps and MLOps. Yeah, that really you move humans into more meaningful activities where they can provide more value. And in that context, I don't think that automation is really going to hurt the quality. I think you're going to essentially get higher value out of the human resources, and thereby also better quality of your data.
Great. I think, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this chat. Thank you so much, Danny, for your time. Really appreciate it and all your perspectives. Let's keep this conversation going through this summit and even beyond. So feel free to reach Danny or me to have more talks around automation and other topics. Thank you very much and have a great day in this summit. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.